to the Fazlo Show. I'm your host Fazlo Abrams, and we are in another episode. I have a special guest, Devon Theron from Property Remax. But before we go to our guest, I'd like to speak or inform you as viewers that it is a reality. COVID is out there and it has affected many industries. Some industries has died down and some industries has flourished. Devon Theron of Remax Property, thank you for being on my show.
And thanks for having me here, Mr. Abrams. Just introduction to myself, my name is Devon Theron. I'm a real estate agent in the industry for 6 years. 3 of that I've been an intern. I work for Remax Property based in the Strandfontein area. We service the Strandfontein and Mitchells Plain area, and we've been in this industry for, well, my office has been in the industry and in existence, the name property, for about say 18 years already.
Wonderful, Devon. Now, I think the fact that you agreed to come on our show indicates that there are certain issues that the real estate industry had to face and challenges. And I think, like every family member, and the fact that you are dealing with a lot of people, there are relationships that needs to be sustained, relationships that needs to be cherished and built on.
Yes.
Like every family member, we have relationships with our uncles, our aunts, our little brother, our big brother.
Yes.
And one particular uncle which has become very prevalent in the news and the industry at the moment is our Uncle Cyril.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more of why you refer to Uncle Cyril as the uncle.
Well, on that 23rd of March, when Uncle Cyril came onto the television, he announced that we would have the initial lockdown. And I call him Uncle Cyril because he was very relatable. He went into this thing giving us hope that we were going to be getting through this and that we need to work together. So the uncle factor is that, what he wanted to do and what he implemented, he meant well. But, sometimes like the uncle in the family that means well, sometimes when they want to do something, it's not always going according to, what the expectation is. But I think it's been like that for everybody on a whole with COVID, and it's been a knockback, and we've all had to readjust and identify what we could do.
Certainly, regulations were placed down, lockdown rules were implemented, and our Uncle Cyril certainly had to put his foot down to a certain point where he had, he was faced with the auntie in the family.
Yeah.
But before we get to the auntie in the family, let's speak about the little brother. We had a bit of an issue with our Minister of Transport, which caused many things in terms of people relocating to their new homes and stuff like that in the real estate industry. How did our Minister of Transport affect the real estate industry?
Well, besides, saying that people need to sit down, sanitize, and then get into the taxi. It's still one of the reasons why I don't take taxi today, because I can't do that. But yeah, with regards to clients moving around and moving to their new properties, it was very difficult. I did have an incident where we had a client that had purchased a property, and they were currently renting and they needed to move to their new property, and the landlord had given them notice, but because of the transport regulations they weren't able to move around. So it did pose quite some difficulty with regards to moving around and for all commuters in a sense, but it did affect the industry. I personally had to give a lot of people information and insight as to what they need to do when speaking to landlords and potential sellers when moving into properties, and just let them know COVID is in place, everything needs to stay as is, but behind the scenes all the legalities are still taking place.
And like a little brother, I'm the youngest of a total of 3 siblings. and always I used to think that I'm right. Now the little brother, Minister of Transport, certainly thought that he was right in saying many things,
Yes.
but clearly it panned out to be sort of a smash and a grab thing for us.
Most definitely, yes. No, most definitely.
Coming back to our little aunt, or rather our big aunt, you know,
Yeah, the
with
very big aunt.
big boots and putting the foot down and saying that, you know, you have to lick the zol properly. You know?
Yes, yeah.
How did those regulations with our minister affect the real estate industry?
Hey, when Dlamini Zuma, very famous now for the whole Zol story with licking the Zol and smoking the Zol, etc. But tobacco industry and alcohol industry, when bans were put in place, I have had clients that were working in those industries, and a lot of clients that have online and social media type businesses with buying and selling these sort of products. So with that ban in place, it was challenging for clients to have funds available, sometimes qualify in terms of bond applications, because this was sometimes the income. And I think the general difficulty with people trying to cope with stressful situations, because a property is quite stressful when the whole transaction can be, you know, and sometimes without these things to assist, you know, it does cause quite a bit of a hassle.
Sure, and we all know that the aunt in the family says what is law, and certainly we've seen that when our uncle placed a certain regulation in place, auntie just changed it a minute ago.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
and she showed us who's boss, right?
Yeah. No, aunties have a way of saying a thing, and you know what? They say it so that even though they're wrong, they're right. So we don't argue with that.
Yeah, but I think in all reality and in all fairness, COVID is a reality, and it has crashed many people's lives, and we know that government intends good, and we know that they have their flaws like any other human being. However, they have a much greater responsibility to govern the country, and they need to obviously make sure that they discuss these regulations and take cognizance of the legal experts out there and the world, so to speak,
Yes.
to make sure that these regulations are fair and reasonable, and it promotes the sustenance of the economy.
Yes.
Particularly the real estate industry, because it's not just about selling houses, or it's about delivering a home. It's not only about selling houses, it's also about people's livelihoods, how
Yes.
they live, how they nurture their children,
Yes.
how they rear their children, and all sorts of things. Location.
Yes.
You know, price.
Yeah.
Certainly, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, so after that good laugh for the family members, let's switch to the actual topics that we'd like to discuss today, and one of being the banks.
Yes.
The banks certainly in the financial industry has taken a knock. A lot of people has lost their jobs, and bonds were interviewed, what we call not taken up.
Yes.
And you, particularly in the real estate industry, has seen clients of yours having to withdraw and cannot or could not proceed with the sale itself. Tell me a little bit more of how it affected your real estate profession.
On a whole, it has affected the real estate industry in terms of banks. The banks' qualifying criteria have really changed quite a bit. Overtime wasn't factored in because of COVID. A lot of companies weren't able to afford overtime. They had to let staff off, keep certain staff, and not give overtime. Salaries were set, reductions were made, and even interest rates. And with regards to that, the bank also had to adjust. And bonds that were in place, up for registration since the beginning of COVID, then became NTU'd. Clients had lost their jobs. And then also existing bonds, new applications were very much scrutinized. The way I mitigated that, I would normally tell my clients, keep in contact with me. If anything changes, let me know. And then we would go to the originator and look for a solution to keep that specific client. Maybe try a different bank, and hypothetically try and accommodate the client as best as possible.
But it wasn't always doom and gloom where the banks are concerned. The interest rate reduction obviously created a hype with people now being able to afford to purchase a property with the low interest rate.
Yes.
And you've seen an influx in sales or people wanting to buy. So there was at least that benefit from what we've seen in the current circumstances during the lockdown period and COVID-19.
Yes.
So,
yes,
and I think how does, just quickly, with the interest rate being low, we see an influx of potential buyers. Does that increase the value of properties?
Well,
have you seen
yes,
an increase?
Yes, no, definitely. I think when the wave hit, it was kind of a unspoken revelation in the market with this low interest rate. Interest rate was, well, it's currently at 7%, probably I heard stats the lowest within 50 years. And a lot of buyers became able to qualify for properties. The only thing is, I think with the whole wave, the sellers' expectation also rose because the agents were also pricing. So your low and middle income market property prices have shot up exponentially to accommodate for the influx of qualified personnel and buyers that could purchase. But it has been a positive aspect of the interest rate. We have been telling clients that are employed, currently employed, they can pay, you can reclaim years back by paying extra now. Mm-hmm. For buyers, now is the best time to buy because you can also pay low interest for maybe the next year to year and a half before you do get an increase, which allows them to enter into the market. So there's been positives with that, and there's been a little bit naughtiness, I would say, not negatives. Sure. In a sense, yeah.
You mentioned entering into the market, and I think that brings us to the particular topic of the FLISP, the Financially Linked Individual Subsidy Plan, which the government has created for individuals to enter into the market. Tell us a little bit more of how that has affected your real estate profession during lockdown period, and also how viewers can benefit by applying for the FLISP and purchasing a property to become a proud homeowner.
Yes, sure, Mr. Adam. So what had happened was, initially when we had first lockdown, housing closed, human settlements closed completely. And the issue there was we were experiencing an influx of buyers with the low interest rates, and unfortunately FLIS wasn't able to accommodate. Your entrance into the market between the 450 and 650 price range relies a lot on FLIS for conveyancing fees, which you will know about, and then also deposits. So we had a scenario of influx of buyers, but not everybody being able to move forward to transactions because people don't have 20 to 30,000 for conveyancing fees during the time of a pandemic, and it would have been vital to have FLIS still maybe operating in maybe 30 to 40%, but we were looking at some maybe 10% to no operation, because at one point they were saying we're only looking at applications that have been submitted, no new applications.
So people can still take or have the benefit and take advantage of the FLISP and be able to become a proud owner.
Yes.
And there are certain constraints though, because of lockdown regulations. The application itself might take a bit longer to be approved and so forth, but it's definitely still out there for the viewers to take advantage of.
Yes, definitely.
Brings me back to the aspect of viewing. I know that the lockdown regulations has prevented in the beginning, prevented you from dealing with people, your potential buyers, your sellers. There were limitations and there were many constraints and requirements in order for you to interact with people. How did it affect your profession and how are you dealing with it now?
Okay, so like with the FLISP and viewings, in the beginning things were really tight, but now things are becoming more relaxed. In the beginning, with regards to viewings and having viewings, it wasn't allowed. But I, myself personally, had to try and keep my clientele and my market share and sales going by relying solely on information. So what I would do is, I would still go out to the clients in terms of have maybe a meeting with him, maybe telephonically, or maybe we'd have a telephone conversation. And then what I would do is I would tell the client, maybe give a specific day when you're going to be out of the property, give me access, and then I would take pics. So we would take pictures, video footage, and have all the information ready. We would then convey that to potential buyers, pre-qualify them, have them drive past the property, and if they were interested, have them fill in offers. And on the offers, we would make a condition to the potential buyer viewing the property. And this is how we mitigated, I mitigated.
So that brings us to the topic of responsibilities, duties, and obligations of the estate agent towards the buyer and the seller, and vice versa. Basically, you have certain roles that each individual party needs to play, including the attorney as well. All that knowledge that is required by an estate agent to provide a particular service is obtained through certain courses, and as a result of those courses, they get to register or required to register with the Estate Agency Affairs Board, and then in turn the Estate Agency Affairs Board will provide them or issue them with a Fidelity Fund certificate. That is a requirement. However, you do find that there are agents flying under the radar, which we call rogue agents, and more particularly, the law has been stipulated that with attorneys out there, they are not allowed to, particularly with the Property Practitioners Act coming in being enacted, that attorneys who attend to conveyancing are not allowed to pay estate agents commission if they are not in possession of a valid Fidelity Fund certificate. If you have to give a message out there to a buyer or a seller to warn them, or what's the word I'm looking for, just inform them to be careful, what would that message be as a registered estate agent with a valid Fidelity Fund certificate? What did you tell the people out there, the viewers out there, to be careful of?
The most important thing I would say to any potential buyer or seller is to try and know who you're dealing with. So on face value, you can't really tell anything about an agent when you meet them. And the best thing would be to identify credibility of the agent by asking for the valid Fidelity Fund certificate, and then maybe asking for a reference as well. You get the fly-by-night agents that maybe have had issues with getting Fidelity Fund certificates, or maybe they've been, we call it blackballing, where there's been discrepancies against them. But there has been measures in place where those agents can get recourse and sort it out, and it's not coming now for the last few months, it's been years in place.
And that's the Estate Agency Affairs Board who has dropped the ball, basically, where agents were applying for their Fidelity Fund certificate, they've paid their fees, but for some reason the Estate Agency Affairs Board has not delivered on what they're supposed to, and those are the ones who have now fallen into the pit hole.
Yes. No, definitely. And you know what, we have been lobbying, and if you keep on long enough, things do tend to get sorted out. But you know, we compare the EAB to the service level of, say, Home Affairs, etc. There's a lot of constraints, and those things are being worked out, coming in with a bill now, etc., to try and help agents. But some agents don't want to go that route because it's more about earning easy money. But it's not about easy money off the backs of one of the most important decisions that someone will make, which is selling their property. And I always recommend to buyers and sellers, do the homework so you know who you're dealing with, and don't complain about the price. You will only maybe pay it 3 to 5 times in your life if you're going to buy and sell that much as a buyer or seller. But at least go for the best service and go for the qualified agent.
Well, you know what they say, if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys to do the work. And if you get monkeys to do the work, you'll end up eating bananas.
100%, yes. 100%, Mr. Abrams.
So in closing, is there any particular message that you would like to put out there to the viewers that with regards to the services that you provide and so forth?
Yes, no, most definitely. I myself, as a real estate agent, by name, I effect transactions with regards to the sale of my clients' properties, but I more embark on a journey. I look at each client's sale and transaction as a journey, and I see where I can add value. It's about adding value to the lives of people.
That value you're talking about refers to making sure that the particular estate agent providing the service knows exactly what's in the contract. Because many times you find that a particular estate agent would be required to explain the terms of the contract, and many a times I've experienced that sellers and buyers both don't know exactly what was explained to them. But it's to be understood, because sometimes an estate agent would explain the term to the seller, but because they don't deal with it on a day-to-day basis, they forget about what was explained to them.
Yes.
So it's rather important that individual estate agents explain the terms of the contract. Devon, thank you for being on my show. I do appreciate it. It's been a lovely time, and I really appreciate the uncle and the auntie conversation we had. And hopefully families out there will now have a better understanding of the uncle and the auntie, you know, and the little brother, obviously.
Yes.
Thank you, viewers. That has been Devon Theron of Remax Property. He is an estate agent servicing the Cape Flats area and other particular bordering areas within the Cape Town area. It's been a pleasure having him on the show, and we are looking forward to other episodes. Please make sure that you like, you share, and you follow the Fazlor Show. I'm your host, Fazluddin Abrams. Thank you very much.